Hello, welcome to the December 8th, 2020 edition of the KMS Wrap-Up. Today's show was Mystery Guest, where we found out the mystery guest was in fact one blind Michael Geary, which I don't think anyone saw coming. Apparently he was called in by Steve and Kirk yesterday. They've been filming at night so far this week, so he was able to come in. I think he did a great job. I'm joined by the one and only Tim in Canton. Tim, how you doing, good sir?
Hey, Justin, December 8th, also the date that, according to S.E. Robinson, John Lennon crashed in an airplane and died.
Yes, R.I.P. John Lennon, known terrible pilot, was not the best pilot in the world. But
no, he also thinks he's the grandson of Vladimir Lenin, but we'll let that one go.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, anyway, so today was the first show. This was, the boys are back in town. This was the first if you woke up in a time capsule from 3 months ago, this is the show you would expect to hear. You'd expect to hear Mike, Steve, Kirk. This is the first time they've all been together since I believe it was September 3rd or sometime around September. So it's been over 3 months since all three of the gang has been together, and I think didn't skip a beat. I think I can't wait for January when Mike comes back. And he's a regular member of the show again. I really enjoyed today's show. I think Mike's very witty in this sense. I think the way to start off the show by having Mike do that Bugs Rabbit impression was very. I don't want to call it hilarious. It was just awkward. It was just the awkwardness that I think the Minifans missed.
Bad, good.
Yeah. It was just
good,
the
bad.
Awkwardness when he's like. Yeah. How long you want me to keep this going for?
Yeah. He gave up so fast, and so it's been 3 months, which is collectively about the amount of time that you spend napping each quarter. But it was nice to hear Mike back. But you did hear a little bit of a crack in his veneer when Kirk mentioned Madawaska, and it was good that Mike said it.
Yes,
and he had said, "Not sure that that's good timing for me." I'd like that Mike is thinking about that. And thinking about getting better and what the road to recovery is for him. And that's a big deal. And they say with recovery, a lot of times you can't leave home base for a while. So we'll see if it happens. It'd be great to hear Mike and Madawaska again, but it might be too much of a trigger event for him to be able to go. Who knows?
Yeah, I actually really liked the fact that Mike was able to kind of stick up for himself and say, he didn't blatantly say no. He said, I don't want to commit to it now. Meanwhile, Mike from 6 months ago, or Mike from right before he left, would have said, "Yep, looks like I'm doing it." Like he would have done anything for the show, which is a good thing. But also, it's good to see him put himself as the first priority. Put his health in the first priority. So that was good to see. I would like to see Mike back in Madawaska for some redemption, but exactly like that. I don't know how that would be with him. With that whole experience he had last year and stuff like that. So I'm sure he's gonna talk about his therapist through that and what he's got going with his new Blind Mike project that he announced today on the show, which is
which is kind of funny because that is the name of it, the Blind Mike project. And I understand from what he says, Justin, you're an integral part of this. So he talked a little bit about how you've been helping him out and how he's also always on his toes when he talks to you, as if you might be some sort of an interloper or spying on him.
Oh, well, I told him first things first. I am loyal to the Kirk Minahan show first. I'll help Mike out with whatever he needs. But if I see some sort of content that I think that Kirk and Steve would enjoy, Kirk has said multiple times, the best thing I ever did was record him and Quantum Week Chris before their first episode of the Cheers podcast. So if I get another moment like that, like it's being sent over to Kirk Minahan. I mean, there's no question about it. I think he knows that.
And Mike's got quite a team. He's got you. He's got Matt Morrell, Marine Matt as he's known from EEI, and a Minifan named Craig. So he's got quite a staff already going into his next business venture. And it sounds from what he said like that part-time potential job at the center. I mean, let's face it, the name's out there, but let's call it the center for now. That sounds like it's not going to be happening anytime soon with COVID lurking around every corner.
Yeah, I could see that also. I bet you the majority of people leave that place thinking they're going to wanting to get a job there. But then kind of once you leave, you're kind of like, because you know how like when you're in high school, you just want to be like, oh, I want to be the cool substitute teacher. I want to come back and be the teacher. And then you leave and you're like, I don't really want to go back there. So
never, ever, ever had that thought in my mind.
no, well, that was
Never,
always.
So that was you.
That was
You
always
wanted to go back as a
wanted
substitute.
to come back and be the cool substitute teacher.
I couldn't wait to get out of high
but then
school and never go back.
But then as soon as I left, I was like, yeah, I don't never want to come back here again.
Yeah,
So
I know what you mean. It sounds like he's very comfortable where he is, and that he seems like he did say he's the cool guy. He's the optimum ocular guy. But and it sounds like maybe he wants to give a little back and be somewhat of a mentor or a teacher to these other students that come in. And he said they're not kids; these are grown adults.
Yeah, no, these are grown adults. I mean, I think he said to you there was one lady who was like in her 80s that was there that was still
114. He said.
Well, I think he estimated.
I think so.
but the one I will say to backtrack to get back to the show, I will say there was not much when Mike first came back. There was that whole, what's your relationship with Steve like? Do you actually like Steve? Do you hate Steve? That was not touched upon at all today. So I thought they would get more into the Mike-Steve relationship.
And what did you think? Did you think, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was wondering about that. Do you think there was an underlying current of something there? Like Mike and Steve have always said they get along great outside the studio, which is odd because inside the studio when they work together, they're actually a little bit combative. So do you think there was an underlying current of tension between the two? Like, oh, Mike's back, we're back to the way it was? Or
I don't think there's an underlying current in today's show. I think they probably just forgot about the about like that conversation because it was much more prevalent when Mike first came back, and Steve had to go and do his thing. But I'd like to see them dive into that a little bit more. To see them, get into why don't you think, because they both think that the other person does not like them, but they both say like, oh, I like Mike, I like Steve.
Like each other, right? Well, we're not going to know until January because he's not back on the show until beginning of January.
Yes, so I think that was a not a miss or anything, but I was expecting Mike to kind of talk about Steve thinks because Steve said like I don't think Mike likes me, and Mike said I don't think Steve likes me. So I think it'd be interesting if they both got together and had a chit chat and kind of sorted through their feelings and became one, and it'd be a magical moment for the show. A good bonding. Maybe Mike should go on this trip to South Carolina.
So another topic that was discussed, and Kirk just did a Periscope about the secret project.
I saw that.
A 5-day trip, right? He said a 5-day trip to South Carolina. He revealed that it is something to do with true unsolved. What was it? Unsolved true crime.
Like unsolved true crime.
Yeah.
That did not get a lot of media attention.
Yes. In fact, he said, I think he said at one point on one of the, looking back at the breadcrumbs that Steve You Live to Tape Twitter account has putting together. He's wrapping his mind in a pretzel trying to figure it out. But he looked back at some of the breadcrumbs, and Kirk has said it's something that was virtually untouched. So very curious to see what that is, because there's a lot of true crime and mystery podcasts out there, and there's a reason. They're freaking great. I mean, people can't get enough of them.
Well, I haven't listened to any true crime podcasts, but I know Netflix series. There's Netflix series after Netflix series on this stuff, and they're super interesting. I'm sure Kirk's going to do an incredible job. I did find it interesting how much he's actually invested in. Like, I didn't find it I wasn't shocked, but I knew nothing about this secret project, and he's talking about how he has whiteboards with all these things and all these people and how they're connected and whether or not they're lying. It seems like it's a true detective sort of podcast, which True Detective is season 1 was one of the best HBO series of all time. So I can really see this kind of going off into something like that, where I'm not entirely sure how cold this case is that Kirk said he's looking at, or the cases are. I'm not sure if it happened last year, if it happened in the 2000s, 90s, 80s, or something like that. But I'm excited. I think he seems to be very invested in it, which obviously when Kirk does something, he does something 110%. You can't get him half-assing something. And I thought it was interesting when he said the reason why the shows lately, the Kirk Minahan shows lately, have been kind of funnier or kind of more upbeat and bringing in Minifan guests and having lighter shows is to kind of offset the darkness of whatever he's doing. So whatever he's doing isn't like I don't want to guess on anything, but I think someone was talking about like a painting was stolen. I can't imagine that was that.
Oh, that was a supposition. That was the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. That's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I have a feeling this has to do with...
That's already been all over. It's definitely not.
This must have to do with some sort of murder or something dark, which is...
It's obvious. I mean, he and Steve have both said how emotionally draining it is, and I'm with you. No matter what it is, it's going to be not just good, it's going to be great, because it seems like he's really amped up for this. He does great with investigative style journalism, and it's putting two things that he does great and loves to do together. It's podcasting and some sort of investigative journalism. Also, he made mention he's hoping this will help somebody. So that's the part I like the most, is where it's not getting any attention. You're down by me, so I don't know if you've ever seen on the North Shore as you come down Route 1. It's been up for years as a billboard. Have you ever seen the billboard that says, "Do you know who killed me?"
No.
So it's on Route 1 as you come from the north of the city into the city over the Tobin. It's been there for years, probably decades at this point. And I always think that poor family still doesn't know what happened to this person.
Is it just a picture of a?
Yeah, it's a picture of a woman, and it's got a phone number, and I think it has a date on it. I haven't seen it in a while, but it still sticks in my head. Anybody that's seen it, I'm sure they know what I'm talking about. And so to hear Kirk say that he hopes that this helps with people, not necessarily closure, but that it's just going to help some people, that's the part I like the best, because I think that is what's so different, because a lot of these true crime is great at telling the story or uncovering things that weren't known, but it looks like he's going after something that nobody's talking about, that is still obviously is still affecting people. It was today somebody had tweeted out, and I apologize, I forget who it was, and I don't want to steal their thunder, but they had said they remember there was a show where they stopped recording for an hour because they got a call, and they came back on and said that call was compelling and it was draining. I mean, and that was for an hour, and they both sounded like, "Woof, we need to go take a break here," but they powered through. So really looking forward to that aspect of what it is that is going to be uncovered, and that will hopefully help with people that are dealing with whatever it is that's gone on.
I still have money on that. It's a movie review podcast. I still think he's going to go around
or a Bruce Springsteen review.
Yeah,
podcast.
He's going to interview all these theaters that are dying, the owners, and it's sad to see their businesses be taken away from them.
Talk to each and every one and how they're going out of business.
But no, I can't wait. I think he did say in the Periscope, he said it's not going to be for some people. If you're a fan of the Kirk Minahan show, you won't necessarily be a fan of, we'll just call it the Kirk Crime Podcast. And
Barstool's big time behind it.
Erica, that's the thing too, is
tweeted out a very complimentary, supportive tweet about how awesome she thinks the project is. She just did it after Kirk did the Periscope. So, I mean, it sounds like this is going to be above and beyond what we've heard in the past about true crime podcasts.
It's not.
However he described it.
I know he said he went to Brockton and he went to Bridgewater and places around Massachusetts, but then he's not just going to South Carolina. I think he said he's going to like Texas. He's going to Colorado. He's
possibly
going to
California.
Yeah, California, like all these other places. So this is like a national. This is big. So this is definitely more of. I think this is going to be the best thing that happens to the Kirk Minahan show since like his first fight with Dave, because I think people are going to see this. Barstool is going to promote this. They're going to whatever. Like, it's not going to be bad. Like, just because people won't like it doesn't mean it's going to be bad. I think it's going to be very well produced. Steve does an incredible job. It's going to be in depth. I mean, he seems to be like, it's driving him insane how much he's like looking into it and has all. He says he has
in
like
a good way. He's passionate.
He's very passionate about it. So I think a lot of people are going to see this. Listen to it and then be like, oh, well, I want to go check out what else this guy does on the Kirk Minahan show. And I think it's going to be a great way to build in a new audience. I also like the fact that this is it's not a like a current day podcast. It's not something where like you and me could listen to the Kirk Minahan show from August of 2019 and love it. But the average person isn't going to, what they're talking about. It's not current events. This seems to be like something where if you listen to it the first day it comes out or you listen to it 2 years later, it's still going to be relevant. It's still going to be, it's like a TV series in that way, in which it's not necessarily talking about the daily topics. But yeah, no, I'm super excited about this. This kind of.
He did say last week, he did say that there was a potential for Minifans being involved in subsequent episodes or series. And that's, so it all makes sense. If he's doing something about crime, maybe he's looking at other stories that might affect some Minifans out there. Who knows?
Yeah.
He did say it. And he did say that he expects a lot of non-Minifans to be fans of the new Secret Project.
Yes, and I mean, he even said, hopefully, if this works well and Barstool's happy with it, there will be a season 2. And I mean, I don't know if it would be kind of like a True Detective season 2, where it's like a completely different topic, a different situation, or if it would be diving even deeper into this. But it seems like he's going all out, which I think if you watch that Periscope and you're still upset that he's going to 3 days a week on the Kirk Minahan show, you are just completely selfish. The amount
3 days
of work
a week with the same amount of content.
The amount of work he's putting into this.
You're eating your meal a different way. That's all. And my suggestion: listen twice. I will.
Yeah, or listen to, like I said, listen to old episodes. Or
we're going to get more content than before because it's going to be the KMS and the Secret Project.
Yeah, and I think I can't wait. I can't wait for the official trailer to drop for the Secret Project, just to find out, like, because he also said it's one of those things where he can't openly talk about what it is because it would affect
what they're doing,
the filming, which is super exciting. Yeah. So it's good to see that Erica, Dave, everyone has his back there. They're excited about it. I know.
Do you think at any point, depending on how South Carolina goes, and if there's any shenanigans, like Steve had said, he really wishes he could have a gun with him. So it sounds like they're going to be in some contentious situations. Do you think at any point you would be invited to be security on the next trip, maybe?
Well, I'm not going to make him so. I mean, obviously, I'll go anywhere and do anything. But I don't think
prove yourself up in Maine, right?
I also can't carry a gun, so
that's okay. You don't have to carry a gun. You have to just take the bullet, Justin. I mean, you got to watch one of Kirk's favorite actors in The Line of Fire with Clint Eastwood. You play that role.
I'll take a bullet for Kirk any day. Shit, and his last words will be, "You're fired," and it will keep me alive. Because
speaking of which, how many are you keeping tab? There's got to be a parody account now on Twitter about Justin's fired.
Oh no, I mean, I think I'm up to like 15 or 16. I'm not entirely sure. But,
impressive.
But hey, that means I've been rehired 16 or 17 times. So how many people?
It's when that balance isn't in the positive that you have to worry.
Exactly. So I mean, obviously, if they ever needed me to do anything, they know that. But I think they're also keeping it on the hush hush because they're afraid.
The bathroom still needs to be cleaned.
I have asked Steve so many times, can I please?
You gotta just go and do it. Just go. I
don't have a key to go in there. Like, I'm not going to break in. I have all
the doors usually open from what they say.
I have all the bathroom cleaning supplies. I'm going to go there and make it spotless. I think Kirk said today he wants me to do another celebrity list while I'm doing it. I would love to do that. I'd even put on like a little outfit. It would be.
Why do I envision Forrest Gump talking about shrimp while you're on your knees scrubbing, talking about your top 500 celebrity list? By the way, can a guy have a celebrity list and spell Lorne wrong? I
thought his name was Lauren. I don't know. I honestly thought his name was Lauren the entire time. I mean, I don't know. People down south have boy names or girl names or.
Well, he's from Canada.
Okay, well, see, I'm not a big Saturday Night Live guy or NBC guy. I've kept my distance ever since that Cosby stuff thing. I don't pay attention.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Well, listen, at least hey, you know how it is. The more you put yourself out there, the more scrutiny is going to be. So.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I fucked up. I did change it back on Instagram, but it was embarrassing. I think Ziggy Robinson actually messaged me. He said, "Does Steve run the Instagram account?" I go, "No, I mostly post everything." And he goes, "Apologies in advance." And then he posted something where it was just like, "Learn to spell," and it was like, "Oh, it's no big deal. I fucked up."
So speaking of not Instagram but posts, you had mentioned something that you feel may have got misconstrued about what you wanted to cover tonight, which was also the
Yes.
calls.
So I said on Twitter that the calls were terrible today, just in the sense that I was not including Big Cat in the umbrella of the calls. I just think
Well,
that
did you think Big Cat's call was terrible? There's nothing wrong with saying it.
I thought Big Cat's call was great. I think he was funny. I think whenever Kirk brings up the ratings and whatever, I think that like slowly digs under Big Cat's skin because he takes it personal for some reason, and I think Kirk's the best at doing that. I think it was funny to see Big Cat and Mike go back and forth a little bit, but I just don't think the calls today were great. I mean, the Kevin from Bristol call, Kirk said he gave him 2 hours to prepare, which is almost no time in the world. So I don't blame Kevin from Bristol at all. I mean, he had an all-time call last week with Willie Banger out.
I mean, that was hitting a grand slam to win Game 7 of the World Series, and then you got to follow it up. It's tough to do. And Kevin's been doing this since back in the EEI days when he got banned, and he was Dorian Hungwell and some other characters. Sometimes you just don't hit all the
I mean, not everything
can
be a home run. I mean, I think even Kirk said last week when they were talking about Quantum Week Chris and Matt kept bringing up how Kirk stepped all over Chris's joke, and Matt goes, "So you're telling me that not all your jokes hit?" And Kirk goes, "Yeah, not all my jokes hit." And it's just, I mean, show me one person who's every single time their jokes hit. And the Kevin from Bristol call was tough. It was kind of funny that they cut it off early. I'm glad they kept it in though, because it's just what they do.
Yeah. So what about so this is near and dear to my heart, right? Mm-hmm. Prank calls, calling into the show. I'm obsessed with doing that. As Kirk has pointed out, I like to hang out at bus stops and recruit young runaways to be prank callers. So what was it that you didn't think was so great about the calls today? The calls into the show.
I don't necessarily think
many. I
don't necessarily think it was their fault. I think they were blindsided, pun intended, by the fact that Mike was in studio. I think if you know Mike's in studio beforehand, you're going to have yourself or someone else call in with Mike centric calls. But what was the first call? I forget.
That was the Netflix recommendation about the White Gold show with the
I feel like that the calls just weren't great today. So I think
Kirk got special project guests, the Halfway Cafe commercial, which was immediately aborted. Blind Mike playing the Blind Mike sensitive sounds was great. Then they got to the guy who so this led to the whole.
Yes, I will say
the guy who called in and said Billy Football was the #1 Bruce fan, according to Billy Football, I think. And that was the last call. So there weren't that many calls. And that prompted the call out to Big Cat and the discussion about, who really knows Bruce and who doesn't. And Big Cat, like the show notes said, he essentially, put a pin in that balloon before it exploded.
I mean, it's just, you're arguing against a wall if you think that you know more about Bruce Springsteen.
But do you think? Yeah, agreed. Kirk is just amazing with his Bruce knowledge. But do you think the call quality is less so because it's at night and people are a little bit thrown off?
I think there haven't been calls
no, there haven't been a lot of calls lately, but
in a while. Which, I mean, I see some people complaining that there's not enough calls. It's like, and these were the same people that were complaining that the show was turning into all calls. So it's like you want calls, you don't want calls, you can't be happy. But,
I can tell you for a fact there is a thread of psychotic callers. Mm-hmm. Not that I had anything to do with it. That are chomping at the bit to be calling in. And I think sometimes people are caught off guard that didn't realize they might be recording. And so I don't think it's this necessarily a lot of the same people that are in their typical mode when that tweet goes out that they're taking calls, whether you're at work or what have you. A lot of people are at home at night doing other things.
I do think that the funniest I don't want to say I can always say every single show that the funniest segment, the call last week was the funniest segment was it was so funny when they were doing the impression of when they were going down to South Carolina and how they were acting.
Yeah.
I pray that one day, maybe it'd be next week when they're down in South Carolina, but Kirk and Steve do an entire episode like that. Where
So
you have
you been down there to South Carolina?
I have a buddy who lives down there. He went to USC. I have not been down there. I know a lot about it.
It does not take long to get very country, very,
Yes.
very fast. I mean, deep woods country, where they will feel like they're in
Feel like
a whole different world. Yeah, I mean, we know around here, around Metro Boston, it takes a while for that urban sprawl to finally get into the country. It takes about 5 miles, baby, and you're in the woods.
Yeah, I've heard it's just a different atmosphere down there. Like my buddy went to a restaurant and he ordered a shit ton of food, and they're like, "Yeah, it'll be $7.80." And he was like,
I mean, it's selling hot peanuts or whatever it is on the side of the road. So it's just different. It's not as much urban sprawl as we have up here. You know, most cities are similar. So it will be funny to see if they do something like that while they're down there in the deep woods.
So yeah, so I think next week, that's very exciting. You know, to know that there's going to be these little KMS road trips.
5 days in South Carolina, right?
I know, but like you said on the Periscope today, you know, he plans on going to California, to Texas, to all these other states and stuff like that. And he got the okay from Erica to do it. So I think that can be, you know, just add to more content, because I'm sure, you know, Steve always seems to get into wacky hijinks whenever he goes on a trip somewhere, whether it's hitting a deer or making up Elias or something like that. So
I do find it hilarious that separate cars, totally get it. Separate rooms, 100% get.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Didn't they mention? I got to read my note again. But aren't they getting separate hotels as well?
Yes, I did hear that.
I freaking love that. I love it. It's true to form. I mean, you know, Kirk doesn't lie. He says what he means, and he means what he says, and he doesn't want to stay in the same hotel. Which I don't blame him, because who knows how many people from Steve's family he's going to have in his hotel room and around the hotel.
And
right?
I like it. It's kind of like the designated survivor approach. You know, if one of them gets into contact with COVID, knock on wood, or something like that, you know, they won't.
The total avoidance.
They won't be together, so they could still continue on with the project. I'm not entirely sure what else I would give Mike an A for today's show. I know that's been big on rating guests. I think Mike was great today. I think listening to it, you know, if you I closed my eyes when I was laying in bed for the 13th hour in a row, and I was just like, I feel like I'm
at that point finally.
I feel like I'm laying in bed in August, and not just or not August, or like July. You know, took me back to the olden days of the Kirk Minahan show.
Yeah, it was great. I agree. It was great to hear him on, but I am also getting more and more excited about what's to come. Also, Mike's not coming back, so it was nice to hear him on, but my feeling was, let's get on with the new stuff.
Exactly.
I think that was awesome that he came on as a mystery guest, and that he's going his own road, and he's going to come in and promote, and I think it's just going to be great every time that he comes in.
I thought they were going to have him in like a voice changer or whatever, or have him. You know how they whatever.
Well, he tried. He was supposed to be Bugs Rabbit.
Bugs Rabbit.
Well, you can tell the way Mike talks. No matter what.
Like, okay, this is Mike, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Mike's like me. He's not an impression guy. No matter what, your accent or the way you speak always comes through.
So, and anything else you want to cover?
Yeah, did you want to do this? You know, we talked about kind of doing like this week in history, since I'm going to do once a week. So big week last December. So I went through December 5th through the 11th. Actually through the 9th. Excuse me. Big week. So this was December 5th was a Thursday, and that was the tennis match.
Ooh.
So anybody wants to go back and listen to that 3 freaking hour show. Awesome show. They did some in studio, and then they did that night where they had the match of all matches. Some stars, I guess you could call them, were made from that, with the play-by-play guy, who is not the Led Zeppelin guy. We did find out it's not him. The next day was the match review, where Steve was just eviscerated. That's all there is to say. The next day was talk about MHB criticizing the show on Mike and the Minifans, and then how he was apologizing to Kirk on text. And Kirk's only criticism was just be consistent. You got a criticism, that's fine. You don't have to apologize for it, but not to be overshadowed on that 12-9 show is where the duel, I can't even pronounce his last name, where the duel talk started. And Kirk fessed up to what he was doing with all his stealing his money and covering the room with DNA. On the 10th, there was MHB who joined the show to defend himself, and also Jerry Callahan joined.
Was that the first time?
Yes, and it was to talk about him launching his podcast.
Oh, that's another thing that was mentioned on the show today. It seems like the bridge is slowly being built.
Yes,
between Kirk and Jerry. He said they were texting back and forth about the OMF stuff and the Craig Carton stuff. So that's always good to see. I think it's good.
And on 12-9, to wrap this up real quick, 12-9, after a Brady horrible loss the night before, Kirk had made his prediction, like some people in the media, not all, that Brady was done and gone from New England. Sure enough, he was not to return. Also this week in KMS show history, Scrolla with 3 L's. Steve revealed his proclivity for still photo pornography on Scrolla with 3 L's. Quite a week.
Very exciting. Well, I think that just about does it here on the KMS wrap up. Thank you everyone for listening. Tonight we have the Anal Boys at 9 all aboard. They're doing their thing. We also have a KMS Brews tonight.
Is that an off-Broadway play now? The Anal Boys?
The Anal Boys, yeah. It's something. I think it might be in Broadway. But then we have the KMS Brews Boys, I believe at 8 o'clock. So check them out. Make sure to subscribe, rate wherever you're following. If you're listening to this on podcast, please subscribe, please rate, do all that fun stuff.
I believe Channel Zero is taping tonight. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I'm on that tonight. But I don't know if they're posting. Yeah, because they do their own RSS feed.
Yeah, they post it and then send it to me, and then I post it up. Awesome. So thank you, Kirk, and we will talk to you tomorrow.